Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's about 10 p.m. over here in Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome back to another episode of Janine Between the Lines, Literature and Lifestyle for Leisure. Today's podcast episode is gonna be all about part one of Little Women. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I'll get into why I chose this little signet classic from my first book related podcast, but I'm really excited. Some of the main topics I was thinking about was how my definition and beliefs about feminism has changed, and all the feminist gender roles and women empowerment, and how that kind of carries on from generation to generation. This book kind of embodied it perfectly. So I'm really excited to talk about it. Thank you again for tuning in, and stay tuned in for after. My quality has been compromised. Stay tuned for more quality-ish content from your host, Janine. I'm excited to have you. I'm excited! If you guys could see me right now, I probably spent about 15 minutes just thumbing through these darned transitions. Oh man, I could just listen to them all. And, that's very unfortunate for me. I'm running on 8%, and I don't remember if I said it, but I just caught this second one, and I was like, dang, I'm in the mood to record some stuff, and I had this little outline going, so, you know what? I better make this 8% count. Hello again. It's nice to be back. I don't have a real schedule yet, but before I got started on serious things, I just wanted to make a small correction from the last episode. I definitely told you guys that I would be recording 2 podcasts a week. Now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't ideally like to be doing that. It's just professionally, I don't think that I'll be able to focus my time just as much. I definitely meant to tell you guys 2 podcasts a month at the very least, just so that gives me space to do at least 1 book related episode per week, and then 1 OTT, which I have a little outline of my OTT coming up pretty soon. But I just didn't want to give you guys false hope. If I had my way, I would be doing this every single week, but that's a goal I'll probably shoot for once I get settled in Nashville and all of that kind of stuff. Those darned prior engagements. So at the moment I'm recording through Anchor for the first time. I just wanted to give a huge freaking awesome applaud shout out to Anchor. This is this is amazing. I was at a coffee shop with Issa and Ina, and when I hit that publish for the first time and getting these emails saying that my podcast has been distributed to podcast streaming sites like Anchor included, but then Breaker and Stitcher, and I had a little palpitation when I saw Spotify and Google Podcasts and Breaker too. Oh man, when it goes to Apple Podcasts, I might drop on the floor. Just for a second, though. Not forever. I don't want to scare you guys. Pretty surreal. Seeing my creepy little icon on different sites. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm really excited. Anchor is awesome. It just gave so much ease to, I was kind of fretting about how I was going to sync this to RSS feeds and all this website and, things that technologically, I'm not going to say I'm deficient of, but I'm a lazy girl. I got things to do. So Anchor's this perfect platform for all this, and I can't wait to just stay active on this social media site. Speaking of social media, I think Anchor's awesome. I wanted to get your opinion, guys, whoever's listening. So Anchor is awesome in a sense that while you listen to my podcast or any podcast on here in general, you're able to respond through voice messages, and I think you can send some sort of text as you're listening to interact with the host, and they're able to play it and put it in podcast episodes. And how cool is that? And then you can respond in the next episode and things. And I love that. I really want to incorporate that. Um, Once you hear something interesting on here and you want to give me your opinion, or when I ask your opinion about something, but some social media platforms that I'm planning to incorporate are an Instagram, a Twitter for Janine Between the Lines. I'm just trying to weigh out what would be the best avenue for you guys to be in contact with me. Definitely going to have an email, but what would make it a more fun interaction? Some of these things will be established by the next episode, but I want to know what you guys think. Would you guys be interested in seeing pictures of scenic books in the wildlife that we're going to be reading? Or would you want to tweet at me, like, telling me that I'm dumb for thinking one way about Little Women, like saying it's everything about women are weird and not cool? You know, you can yell at me. That's what I'm trying to get at. What avenue would be the best for you guys to yell at me when you want to talk to me, and for me to respond in a proficient manner? Let me know. Definitely gonna have an email, but you know, I want this to be super lit. It'll be freaking cool. Are you ready to get into the book? I'm ready to get into the book. Let me play around with these transitions and see. Let's see what Janine has to say about Little Women. Guys, I apologize in advance for the quality of my audio. I'm really playing around with different ways to record. Right now I'm test driving using my microphone from my earphones, and I like how it sounded. But then I played it back and I heard a lot of oh, I'm so sorry, and a lot of hard breathing. I'm really going to try to control these breaths. But, you know, just dipping my feet in a few things. I'm going to find my way. Just bear with me for now. And if it's too unbearable, you got your volume button. I think you'll be fine. Just kidding. Please protect your ears from my nonsense. Anyways, yay, guys! This is the first book dedicated podcast. If you were a tough cookie and you freaking punched through the first episode, I don't remember if I addressed it. But there's a method to my madness. Why Little Women, you're probably asking. Of all the books that I could choose, why this olden, like I said, summer reading book that, if you ask my brothers, they're like, why did you pick this book? Like, no one's gonna want to read it with you. Like, why do you want to discuss this? Well, guys, this is why. This is addressed to my brothers because they don't understand me. I have a dream. I have a vision. This is my vision. So, you know that in the beginning, I wanted this to be a book club. Which, yes, let's make a baby and make this just a book club podcast about life, and I can talk about what I want. But anyways, in my head, I can't comfortably call myself a book lover or a book club owner without tackling certain pieces of literature, aka like classics. I grew up, and I didn't grow up. I got some growing up to do. But I grew up loving Pride and Prejudice. What else do I love that my brothers hate? Wuthering Heights is one of my favorite books. The Land. I was really big into Greek mythology as well. It's just, I'm blanking and now I sound completely uneducated, but I have a vision that in order for me to call myself a connoisseur of literature, or if people reference these books all the time, and I don't feel right knowing that I haven't read them and have them in my head. If we're talking about modern novels that are trending and more popular today, I want to be able to relate them to how different age, like, books. Where was I going with that? I want to be able to say, like, oh, this relates to freaking Little Women in this sense, and we can compare and contrast how men and women were treated there or their writing styles. Like, I want to have that baseline. So, Second and Charles is one of my favorite places on earth, and I went higgity ham. How you can't just have buy one get one 50% off and not expect me to get at least 10 books? Yeah, I went ham. So, I got this big stack of The Picture of Dorian Gray, Dracula, every single adventure of Sherlock Holmes book in one edition. Another fact of mine, I am 341% obsessed with Sherlock. He's my favorite character in the history of characters, as portrayed by Benedict Cumberbatch, of course. Um, what else did I get? Sense and Sensibility, Vanity Fair. Some people are probably rolling their eyes and they're like, why would you want to read these books again? It takes a lot. Like, when we're reading them in middle school and high school and we're forced to read them, we're like, what is this language? Why are they talking this way? What are they even saying? Because we can't relate to it at that point. That's my main, not gripe, but during those times, I feel like we should have been reading books that were gratifying, but something more that we can understand. I don't know. I'm really happy with what like freaking literature that teachers are making their kids read now. But if you asked me to read this in middle school or in high school, I wouldn't not. I think I'm kind of smart sometimes, but I would not have been able to understand and relate as much as I do now as a 23-year-old woman. And that's why I'm revisiting it. I think it'll be really, it was very insightful. And I know I'm only halfway through, but the topics that I'm talking about now really do relate to our world today. And it's kind of life changing. I had this super cute idea because I know that not everybody probably has read this book or remembers. So, part one, I'm going to give you all the briefest of briefest synopses of part one. So, a little challenge to myself. I said 23 chapters, 23 words. So, this is a 23 word summary of exactly what happened in chapter 1 through 23, part one of Little Women. Are you ready? It's pretty clutch. So you can clock me on it, count it for me. A poor, lovely family of 6. Working women, father away from home. Different personalities, but equal and sisterly love throughout hardship and sickness. I wish I could add transitions of applause into our actual recordings because I was very proud of that. But that synopsis could be applied to the whole book. But that's pretty much all you need to know for part one. Would you believe me if I told you that I didn't consider myself a feminist until late sophomore year of college? Yeah. When I picked up Little Women and before I dived into it, before I wanted to get between the lines of this book, it's funny because it kind of ties into nursing judgment too. They always stress how important it is to self-reflect and self-assess your feelings and your cultural, mental, what else, beliefs, because your that background is going to affect how you handle a certain situation and how you will interpret different situations. So I knew that this book would be heavy female situations and opinions. And I thought that it was really important for me to take a look at how my definition and beliefs have changed. So I guess if we're going to have a in-depth then and now moment, I thought I'd take a quick flashback to Janine 2014. I don't have it pulled up right now, but it's one of those things that I said that I'm like, forehead to my fist. I was on my old Twitter. Oh, goodness. I was on my old Twitter, and it was, so 2014. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. What do you think was the keystone significant moment where the tide changed for women and feminism became what it is today? Like, what do you think was that key event that turned the tables and changed the tides and put women, they've always been on the map, but put women in the position or stance that, okay, sorry men with penises, where this is our world now. When I think of that era, I want to say I started seeing more and more publicity and the spotlight being on the free the nipple movement. And that's when I think, in my brain, and I have the worst memory, in my brain, that's when women started to be like, oh, I can do what I want. I can say what I want. I can wear what I want. I can sleep with who I want. And guess what? Who freaking cares? Because this is our world and we're just gonna take over. What was your moment that changed everything? So back to that tweet from 2014 that I regret. I think it was a thread of 2 or 3, and the first tweet said something along the lines of, I can believe and be a proponent of equality in men and women without calling myself a feminist. Add another tweet, so tweet number 2 was something along the lines of, I don't have to grow out my eyebrows or have a strike against shaving my armpits and show it off to the world without thinking that women are powerful and can do anything they want. And probably the third tweet was something along those lines. And I was just reflecting on that earlier this week, and I was like, Janine, was that ignorant of me? That probably was pretty ignorant of me, but I just wanted to take both sides of myself. The reason why, I think my reasoning behind that mindset was, granted, like I said, at that time, with the Free the Nipple movement and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and everything, was those sites were only showcasing, and I wouldn't expect them to showcase the little victories or the small movements or anything like that, but every picture and everything shared and becoming viral was just, I think that there is a subcategory of radical feminists who completely go against the grain, and it is their job to like reject all of the standards that are set, quote unquote standards that they feel women should be abiding by. And heck yeah, freaking go them. And Janine 2014 at that time was like extremely judgmental and ew, like why would you do that? I'm still a lady. I can do this. But like you don't have to do that. And that's where my fault was because now I'm like, excuse me, fist bump, go freaking you. Like I will cheer. I freaking applaud the women that do that and I completely support. And there's only like, oh my gosh, I love everything that we're doing as one because I don't even have words. Do I sound unintelligent? It's like the past me took that situation. That's why I feel like, yeah, I got some growing up to do, or I had some at that point in time because that was me looking down on women having that, like possessing that feeling of equality that, you know, they can grow out their hair, they can do whatever the freak they want, and that empowers them, and they have that right. And that's beautiful to me. Whereas 2014 me was questioning why they would be doing those things, pretty much going with the grain, some would say. And just because it didn't reflect something that I believed in, I thought that that was too much for me, which is a big difference. Being a feminist is fun, guys. It's just all about equality. I love men. I love women, and I think our generation is going to be the generation that really this is the comeback. This is the comeback for and the come up for us together. If we can just, you know, move in this together as one, dude, we're already destined for greatness. Like, I know that you guys could feel it too. We're going to be so different. Our environment in every single stance is going to be different from how we were raised and how our parents were raised and the generation behind us, and our children and our children's children are going to have such an accepting and revolutionary childhood. They're going to grow up with some woke freaking parents. And that just tickles me. I mean, you know, fall in with the right crowd and be around people that are as forward thinking as you. And if we just bring on our friends to have these beliefs that literally we can do anything if we believe in like equality and give everyone the chance and be accepting, then I think we're only destined for greatness at this point. Okay, back to Little Women and back to feminism and back to gender roles and all of that stuff. All right, so back to the subject. I'm about to read you guys a quote, and I want you guys to think whether you agree or disagree with what Mrs. March, the mother, is saying to Meg. It's in the chapter if you wanted to follow along or read what happens before or after. It's in the very end of the chapter of Meg Goes to Vanity Fair, where she's about to, she's coming back from the party, and Mrs. March is giving kind of a little tidbit of advice to Meg and what she kind of expects from her daughters growing up as women. And here is the quote. Mrs. March said in her serious yet cheery way, "I want my daughters to be beautiful, accomplished, and good, to be admired, loved, and respected, to have a happy youth, to be well and wisely married, and to lead useful, pleasant lives, with as little care and sorrow to try them as God sees fit to send. To be loved and chosen by a good man is the best and sweetest thing which can happen to a woman, and I sincerely hope my girls may know this beautiful experience." She then goes on to say, "My dear girls, I am ambitious for you, but not to have you make a dash in the world, marry rich men merely because they are rich, or have splendid houses, which are not homes because love is wanting. Money is a needful and precious thing, and when well used, a noble thing, but I never want you to think it is the first or only prize to strive for. I'd rather see you poor men's wives if you were happy, beloved, contented, than queens on thrones, without self-respect and peace. So the next quote I'm about to read you guys on the complete flip side is from her sister, Aunt March. It's in the chapter Aunt March Settles the Question, and Meg is pretty much getting the full scoop of what Aunt March thinks about when it comes to marriage and her 2 cents on marrying John, who isn't the wealthiest, most well-off individual. So she's speaking to Meg and she says, "Now, Meg, my dear, be reasonable and take my advice. I mean it kindly and don't want you to spoil your whole life by making a mistake at the beginning. You ought to marry well and help your family. It's your duty to make a rich match and it ought to be impressed upon you." So she goes on with her lecture and she goes on to talk about how John is poor and hasn't got any rich relations. And Meg bites back saying that he is poor, but he has a lot of warm friends. And she says, "You can't live on friends. Try it and see how cool they'll grow." She bites back a little bit, and the final part is, "So you intend to marry a man without money, position, or business, and go on working harder than you do now, when you might be comfortable all your days by minding me and doing better? I thought you had more sense, Meg." Pretty crazy, right? Before I get into it, I want you guys to, if you're on Anchor, I want you to send me a voice message of what you agree with and what you don't. Or you can send me an email that should have been established and should be in my bio. Or you could tweet me if that's in the description. But if not, then just keep it in your head and just talk at me and pretend that we're together. But, right? Ties in pretty nicely. And I'm about to go on a rampage now, but I just found those two quotes pretty significant, because if we're still on this then and now kick, let me tell you guys a story. Let me tell you a quick story. So, freaking, let me know if you were like me. I am 23. I just turned 23 the end of July, but how many of you, raise your hand or give me a little applause while you're listening, how many of you, when you hit, I don't know, 18, 19, you told yourself, you gave yourself this idealistic timeline and you said, okay, so if I finish college by 21, 22, hopefully I'll have a serious boyfriend by 20, I don't know, maybe like 23, 24, serious as in he asks my parents to take me on dates, and you could tell I had a really traditional upbringing. Maybe he'll tell my parents that he's serious about me, then he'll court me and date me, and then hopefully he'll propose to me by 24, 25. This would put me at the perfect childbearing age, so that if we're working for at least 2 or 3 years, him of course working longer than me, then we could have kids by 25, 26. And then we would get a house together and live this perfect family. And I would have a bunch of kids running around, going to basketball camp and soccer camp. And meanwhile, I could still be working part-time as a nurse. And yeah. Was that you guys? Because that was me. I know people that were completely different from me and didn't plan their lives like that. But that was me. That was me when I was in, when was that? Oh, for a long time. I'm not going to front. I'm not going to front and say that wasn't me. Like, yeah, I probably felt that way up until the beginning of my junior year. It wasn't that long ago. So, like, probably like high school up to that point in time, I wanted to have my life planned out that way, like in terms of romance and meeting my soulmate and how I wanted our future to play out. Am I the only one? I can't be. Let me know. So when I was reading these quotes, I was like, wow, how funny is that? And okay, so let's break it down. Let's go back into Mama March's quote. And when I read it, I was like, wow, this sounds like something that my mom would tell me. You know, it's very traditional, vanilla. Oh, God. Um, so the parts that I agree with, I don't even know if I want to break it down that way because I just want to tell you guys, there are parts of both of these that I agree with. And if you asked, again, transition whore over here, just wanting to go back to 2014 me, even though I'm embarrassed about it. But I guess it's good to reflect on your change. But I would be, 2014 me would be surprised that I agree with anything that Aunt March said. And wait, I don't think that you should marry strictly for money or anything like that. Let's put a hold on that. But there are parts of it I understand where she's coming from. I wouldn't have been able to understand that, and my opinions would be completely different if, you know, I didn't go through what I've been through and am at the age that I am now. But back to Mama March's quote. I think it's beautiful. I read this and I sighed, one of those typical sigh, ah. But then at the same time, I've been on this like INDEPENDENT kick, you know? And here's what's going on. And I'll talk about it more in my OTT, but I keep asking my friends, like, have we peaked? Is this the peak of our lives? Because I don't know, I'm at this age and this stage and this time period that I'm at right now, even though I'm hella stressed in terms of like, I still have to take one of the biggest tests of my life and I'm about to make my first big move, but everything has, and I give it up, you know, like I know I'm extremely blessed, but everything has been freaking great. I don't know how deep I want to go into that, but like in my mode right now, everything has been going my way and I have the most like loving relationship with my family and my friends and the most supportive system that I've ever had in my life. And I haven't been like, oh, I wish I had a man to share this with. I wish that like somebody could like be with me and we could like be on this like journey together. Because yes, that would be nice. You know what I'm saying? But I haven't felt like the need for that or that is anything that I want. Because I think we have to take at least some point in our lives to be selfish, and I'm being freaking selfish right now. Like, I am so happy like where I'm at right now, and I don't want anything like to compromise that or change that. And love can mess you up sometimes. But guys, what am I even talking about? Do you like live for this stuff or no? So yeah, in terms of her quote, I like that she said, these are the things that I took and I was like, yep, that's me right now. She said, I want my daughters to be beautiful, accomplished, and good. I like the accomplished part. I think every woman is beautiful. And good, that's a pretty loose term. What's that basic girl quote where it's like, I was on Twitter and it said something like, women who follow all the rules are never like, I don't know. What is that one? I'm going to pull it up later. She says, to be admired, loved, and respected. Out of all of those, I'll take respected. I'll take respected out of those three. to have a happy youth, thumbs up, to be well and wisely married. Yeah, I guess when marriage comes, when I get to that point, and to lead useful, pleasant lives with as little care and sorrow to try them as God sees fit to send. Useful, yeah. Pleasant, that sounds a little uppity to me. And then with as little care and sorrow, like that, none of my close friends that are women, I doubt that they would want. Of course, nobody wants to live with sorrow and no one wants like troubles or anything, but we wouldn't value what we do now or value the things that do go right if we didn't have a little bit of something go wrong. You know what I mean? And we're strong freaking women and we push through, and that's why we have that care, and that's why we're able to, you know, recognize that things are going right, because we go through all that hardship to appreciate that. So with as little care and sorrow to try them, I think, yeah, maybe Mrs. March implied that, like, as little as possible, like, hopefully that God doesn't send you any, like, too much trouble or anything like that. But that's nothing that, we can foresee or anything like that. But then the quote that gave me the most, to be loved and chosen by a good man is the best and sweetest thing that can happen to a woman. Boy, to be loved and chosen by me will be the best experience to have it to you, right? I mean, okay, that's me. Like, I'm being a little extra. I really am. Because, look, it's equality. See? That's the thing. It's equality. And I think at that point, to be loved and chosen by each other, where it's a perfect fit, that's what you look for. But you ain't gonna freaking whose freaking Instagram stories are watching? Like when Chris Tucker is choosing from all the Asian masseuses. Like, I'm not gonna feel. No man is going to make me feel like, oh, I'm so honored that you picked me to marry. I'm like so grateful that you thought that I was worthy of being betrothed to you. Am I being uppity? Please tell me if I'm being a little too much. But when I read that, I was like, the greatest thing right now, the greatest thing for me, rather than being loved and chosen by a man, I would rather buy my first house than be chosen by a man right now. I would rather successfully start a really consistent 401k. I want to lose X amount of pounds that's in my dream journal. A value that will only be for my closest friends. I want to successfully pay off my loans and my credit cards rather than be loved and chosen by a good man right now. And you know what they say, like, whenever you're not looking for it, that's when it's going to come to you. Well, that's, I believe in that too. And that's satisfactory. Like, the reason why I gave that whole spiel in the last little clip is because in this era right now, this 1860-ish era, like, the main priority for daughters and women at that time, I wouldn't want to say the main priority, but a big part was being like fixed in a marriage and being matched with somebody who was going to have you be like well off and be comfortable in your living. Then you could have children of your own while the man supports you, and you could, like, you knew how to do your womanly and motherly duties staying at home, and just managing the household while the man brought in the work. Well, what I like about Mrs. March is since they didn't come from wealth and they didn't have the luxury of having a bunch of nanny stuff, she made every single one of these little women, all the daughters, like have their own craft and make money and be able to sustain themselves like from the very beginning because she said, you have to be able to make something of yourself before you can have the privilege of being with that man and him having to do things for you. Something along those lines. It's crazy. Yeah, but what else did I say? Money's a needful and precious thing. And it can be noble, yeah. But I never want you to think it is the first or only prize to strive for. That is true. I agree with that. I'd rather see you poor men's wives if you are happy, beloved, contented. So I agree with that too. And a little bit of my opinion has changed. Like, I'll get into that later. But she says, if you are happy, beloved, contented, rather than queens on thrones without self-respect and peace. I don't know about that. I'd rather be a queen on a throne. And I can just picture this in like that meme, like, where's my king? I'd rather be a queen and my king working alongside me. No, I mean, that sounds cliche AF, but like I said, this is the time to be selfish. We can build ourselves. All of us are individual queens in our own way. Like, there's too much to go out and get. There's too much to go out and get as women in this time where opportunities are flooded and we can do anything we put our mind to. Like, that's the disagreement that I have with Miss March in this quote. I love and respect the tradition. And my mom would probably, she feels the same way. Anak, when are you going to have a boyfriend? You need somebody who will like take care of you. And which is crazy because coming from an Asian family, they never want you to have boyfriends like growing up and everything's so strict. But now that I'm at this age where I can finally, almost, not finally, I'm still getting there, like have a job for myself and live alone, and now it's nothing but you're not talking to anybody, nobody's trying to court you or anything. So it's funny, she would probably go head over heels for that quote and would want the same thing for me. But yeah, if you asked me that, if you asked me to read that quote like 4 or 5 years ago and I still had that, am I going to get married by 21 years old? I would probably agree with every single thing. But at this point right now, I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm going to keep asking you guys what you think, and because I'm trying to get you guys to interact with me on Anchor, and I want more people to download Anchor so that we can just do it together. That's fun. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of Mama March's quote? Because I'm about to go into what Aunt March said. And I was re-listening to that last recording. And like I said there's a lot that I don't agree with in Aunt March's quote. And no, I don't believe that you should marry for money and stuff. But the reason I understand Aunt March's quote in context. Guys, who has a home phone but never freaking answers it? Oh, doggone it. I'm just gonna let it ring out. Do you guys hate me? So if you take the time period and you kind of like try to live and where Aunt March, try to be in her shoes, because she married, oh man, now am I going to sound like I don't know about the book. But yeah, she's widowed and she's pretty well off because like she married rich. And there's a lot of connotations in the book that imply that Aunt March like wasn't happy with her marriage. But that's okay because now she's well off and she has like this money to give. And even though she's a grumpy individual, yes, she is set for life and all of that stuff. So she was planning on giving Meg these wonderful trinkets and this wealth to congratulate her on being the first married out of the little March family. But now she's like, no, you kidding me? Look at this stupid decision you're making. So I'll break it down how I did in the other quote. So, my dear, be reasonable. Take my advice. I mean it kindly. Don't want you to spoil your whole life by making a mistake at the beginning. I don't agree with that. Convert that shiz into learning. Charge it to experience, as my friend Gabe would say. Just charge it there. Pay it back later. Let it accumulate interest. Then you'll learn a lot from it. You ought to marry well and help your family. It's your duty to make a rich match, and it ought to be impressed upon you. Like I said, context-wise, these things are expected of women at this time period. And I understand why Mrs. March would want this for Meg, because everyone, including the family, is aware that they're not in the best situation, especially with Mr. March being away for so long, and they have been going through hardship. And I'm one of those people who are extremely blessed, and I'm very grateful. Like, when I make it, quote unquote, make it, I know that I owe everything to my higher power and my parents. That I always get choked up talking about this, but my one goal in life, or one of my main goals in life, is to be able to pay my parents back for what they've provided me. And in this time period, this is the way that you like give love and thanks to your family, is that you like put yourself in this position where you can help your family out and assist them in whatever they need. And that's kind of what I want to do. Like, once I'm in that position, to have the means to give like my family like funds if they need it, or gift them a vacation to the Philippines, or my dad, like, I'm never going to tell him this, but I want to buy him a great truck, because there's no feasible physical way to pay my family and my parents back for what they've given me to be privileged to live this life and do the things that I've been able to do. Like, no amount of money. You can't give my parents like X amount of dollars. Of course they want to accept, but I'm going to like sneak it into like, that's why I have to give it to them, like not as a check or anything. It has to be like a gift. So like, no, there's nothing that I personally could do to pay back my parents for what they've done for me. So I try to convert that into just being the best person that I can be and making them proud. Like, hopefully they look at me and they're not like, what a disgrace. We've done all of this, and this is the way that I pay it back to them, is by paying it forward, by being the good person that that hopefully they think that they've raised, and making a difference with other people and influencing people positively, and just being a reflection of both of them and me, and hopefully that they love and are proud of that. So anyways, Tangent City over here. It's Tangent City. But like I said, in this era, Aunt March is saying this because it's common in that time period to marry, and then once you have that, you have the means to help your family out. Right? Am I wrong? Tell me through Anchor voice messages. Anyways, to keep going. The Rook is poor and hasn't got any rich relations, has he? She's a little savage. I would have gone about this in a different way, but Dang, calling him a rook? That's harsh. Anyways, it's just funny to me because it's actually not that funny. But like, people objectify women, and then this savage lady's objectifying this man. He's just a freaking puzzle piece. You can't do that. It's equality. Remember, guys? It's equality. So, what'd she say? So you intend to marry a man without money, position, business, and go on working harder than you do now, when you might be comfortable all your days by minding me and doing better. I thought you had more sense, Meg. Where's your sense, Meg? But like, one of my dearest friends that I graduated with, she was dating this guy. I say dating loosely because, and we were having a conversation about it, and it put things into perspective for me because I more closely identified with Mrs. March when she said, like, I'd rather you be a poor wife than be like, be poor, beloved, contented, rather than being like, unhappy because love is wanting in your household. And I believe in that. Like, if you try to find a man because of his wealth, like, what the heck? How are you gonna like live with him and be happy with yourself? Like, if all you wanted was the money and you have no other connection. And I, within the past, one thought that I remember when I was just contemplating my love life, like, I had an instance, like, I don't care, and I still believe this, call me flawed, but what do you guys think? Like, I think nursing is a very stable job, where, you can make a living, and if I'm really, like, in love with somebody, and I care for them, and I want to be with them, and there's nothing that could stop me from, like, being with them. I don't care if you, like, are making, like, $0, and, like, if I want to make it work, if I want you to live with me, and, like, all this kind of stuff, the money is never going to be the issue. Like, if we're truly meant to be together and things, like, on your side, like, financially, of course, like, why? That's never been an issue for me. Like, I always told my friends, like, I don't give a crap. Like, if I'm in love with you and I want to freaking be with you, like, we're not going to be thinking about money and all that stuff. Like, I'm going to be doing, like, duh, you can freaking live with me. Duh, I'll pay for our food. Duh, I'll cook for you. Like, LOL, typical, like, trophy wife. But really, like, me footing the money for, like, the both of us is never an issue in that sense. So that's why I kind of agree with that March. But on the flip side, my dear friend was telling me, like, she's at a point in her life where what was she saying? She said, like, I just want to know beforehand, like, what's your credit score? How's your, like, investments? What are you being, like, are you a productive, like, person? Are you going to be somebody that's, like, dragging me down while I'm doing all the hard work and all this kind of stuff? And the gist of it was, like, she's like, what's your 401k looking like? Like, because she was implying that, like, she's worked so hard to build herself up to this point that she wouldn't settle for a man that wasn't as, like, hardworking as her, pretty much. Which now, like, if the money part of it is, like, it's kind of hard to elaborate on that, but, like, I understand where she came from, and it kind of takes the Mrs. March stance. It puts that into perspective, because in a sense, she's right. Like, if you look at it, um, not in the monetary sense, but if you're like trying to, it's going to be a lot more work for you and a lot more stressful to be dating a man who doesn't have like those means or isn't working towards something at the extent that you are. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that I'm the kind of person who would be like, on our first date, yeah, like, show me the Carfax, or like, what is it? What is it? Creditkarma.com. Like, I do want to know that you are stable in any sort of way. But, Mrs. March, I wouldn't like ban my niece because my niece of any like freaking inheritances because she's marrying a man who's poor. You know what I mean? Does that give you any insight on what kind of woman that I am? What do you guys think of me? Am I a bozo? I'm telling you, I had a really great feeling about this episode. And I still kind of do. I feel like we had a pretty good discussion. And like I said, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. And if you think I'm wrong, what should I change about my thought process? What do you think is problematic? What do you think what experiences have you had in, not even just in a feminist sense, but in dating and relationships and what your parents are thinking about, like with marriage and how your thoughts of marriage have changed based on the times and what is expected of men and women. I'm excited to go into part 2. Like, I want to see how the wedding plays out and all of this kind of stuff. I do, before I close out this episode, I know I made the center, like, topic, like, women empowerment, kind of. Let me know if it was completely off topic. I'll try to be more organized next time, guys. But I just wanted to leave you guys with, I've got my baby little sticky notes over here, and I have a few favorite quotes that I wanted to share with you all before I closed off until the next episode. So, let me see. So there were a few that I really liked that were pretty general. One of them is actually, I'm cheating. I read probably the first chapter after, what's it called? After part 1, but it kind of tied into like the whole women debate. And this was my thought. So the quote was just talking about what happened after the proposal. And this is what it said. It said, To outsiders, the 5 energetic women seemed to rule the house, and so they did in many things. But the quiet scholar, sitting among his books, was still the head of the family, the household conscience, anchor, and comforter. For to him, the busy, anxious women always turned to him in troublous times, finding him, in the truest sense of those sacred words, husband and father. I really like that quote. I love that quote because, like, I feel that my father kind of embodies that too. Like, among the buzz of what's going on in our household and, during school and everything's just like crazy and all that, like, I could, if I'm overwhelmed with anything, like, I can come and talk to my dad. And I know that I'm blessed to have that kind of relationship with my dad. But I also wanted to go on the flip side again as well. Like, for all my women and mothers, single mothers raising their kids by themselves, like, that's how you know this is an old-fashioned book, I guess you could say. Like, women have constantly fulfilled this role as the mother and father without any credit for it. Like, people look to the dad for these things, for being the anchor and the comforter and being busy or, like, being the rock. But can you imagine the women that have to do their jobs too and play this role in their household? I can't. So I do love that quote for personal experience and being able to tie that in to, experiences now where women have to do both things. So some more quotes that I put sticky notes by that Miss L.M. Alcott said that kind of stuck with me. So this is a good one in relation to Beth. It said, "For love casts out fear, and gratitude can conquer pride." I really like that one. Love is the answer, guys. A few more. You have a good many little gifts and virtues, but there is no need of parading them, for conceit spoils the finest genius. Amen to that. Be humble. Sit down. Oh, I love this one. This is also one of my favorites. I've probably got like two more, but so it's the context is like prior to Aunt March giving her the lecture. Joe was like denying John and like, oh no, I will not marry you, and she just felt so powerful by it. And then when Aunt March gave her opinion, she was talking about some like Aunt March said, no, you are forbidden to marry him. You will not marry him, blah, blah, blah. And then the author says this. She said, the best of us have a spice of perversivity in us, especially when we are young and in love. If Aunt March had begged Meg to accept John Brooke, she probably would have declared she couldn't think of it. But as she was peremptorily ordered not to like him, she immediately made up her mind that she would. Inclination as well as perversivity made the decision easy. And being already much excited, Meg opposed the old lady with unusual spirit. Isn't that funny? That kind of relates to like, I don't know, a lot of things. Like when you're told not to do something, you're like, kind of like Nemo, don't you freaking touch the butt. But like, that's what gives it the appeal, like knowing you're not allowed to do something. I don't know, that tickled me. I like that one. And then on the next page, oh, I like this one. So Joe, who loves her sister Meg more than anything, I guess, yeah, it must be weird watching your, like, I don't have sisters, but watching your sister grow up and become this woman and fall in love and kind of not become a different person, but a new side is shown to her that Joe has never seen before. And what I gather from the book is that Joe is extremely possessive. But what she said, what the author said, she said, Joe loved a few persons very dearly and dreaded to have their affection lost or lessened in any way. So, like, I kind of know how that must feel. Like, one, it kind of has to do with like keeping your circle like small, because she only loved, like, she knew her family was like her core, like her circle. She doesn't want anybody to take that away from her. And then I could kind of relate, like one of my best friends, I remember has anyone else felt this way? Like when your best friend starts dating somebody new and kind of the guy is all she can talk about, and slowly you guys are talking on the phone. Oh, this feels so high school to me, but this is how I feel that Joe feels, and it kind of relates because she's at that age too. Like when your friend just starts to like someone a lot, and then slowly but surely, like, they start talking more and they start talking on the phone more, and then you're only there for the times that she needs help with something, or like you're still like best friends and stuff, but another type of relationship has been formed on their side, and it's kind of like a dreadful feeling that you're losing somebody you love. Even though they are still there, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. So my heart really sympathized for for Joe in that sense, like that she was feeling lost, like she was losing to John. Um, what's it called? That she was losing her sister to this man who she only knew for like a few months, you know? So that kind of hurt my heart a little bit. So my final quote, I wanted to end on this note, with this quote because I don't know, I really like this one and I figured I'd end on something positive. I just wanted to thank you guys for listening in again. This is amazing. I love being able to do this. Um, if you're on Anchor, give me a quick little applause or give me a favorite or share if you want. If you're on any other platform, thank you again so much for listening. Interaction, social media platforms and stuff for us to communicate is coming very, very, very soon, if not already. If it is, I'll link it. If it's not, I'll link it soon. So I'll let you know. So thank you so much for listening. My next episode is most likely either going to be a part 2 or it's going to be an off the topic time, an OTT. It'll be an OTT, most likely, just because I got a lot of moving stuff coming up. But thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I love you. Please stay tuned for the next episode. Part 2 of Little Women to go into more depth. Maybe not a big focus on feminism, but maybe we'll talk more about masculinity and stuff. So the final quote from Miss Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, Part 1, goes something along the lines of this. And if a big part of me, which I'll talk about more ever since I got over my illness and everything, that was a big transformation in me looking at the bright side of things and always being positive, and how I want to exude that and spread that to every single person I encounter. So this quote really hit home for me. It was Meg talking to Joe and just making her like feel a little bit better. And what she said, "Be comforted, dear soul. There is always light behind the clouds." Yeah, I really like that. Whatever you're going through, whatever hardship, whatever troubles, there will always be light at the end of the tunnel. And I'll be there with you to get through it. So again, thank you for listening to Janine Between the Lines. I love you all. One day I'll think of a clever tagline to end this, and just you wait. It'll be there.